All right, so something I said last week when I gave the last macro talk, I was going to talk a bit more about each macronutrient a bit more in depth. So for today, we're talking protein, my favorite macronutrient. Stink? Damn, all right. All right, so kind of going to the basics here. What is a protein? A protein is a chain of amino acids, a molecule that we don't need to go into because I'm sure it would bore you all to tears. But essentially, they are chains, multiple connections of amino acids. They fall into one of two categories, non-essential and essential. Non-essential amino acids your body can make from other food items. Whatever you eat can be turned into these amino acids. The essential amino acids you must ingest to survive. Without them, you perish. There are 11 non-essential and 9 essential that make up 20 total amino acids. I will not read through all of them, but some of them you may recognize as supplements. Specifically, isoleucine, leucine, and maybe from Thanksgiving, tryptophan. But these are things you cannot get from internal mechanisms. You must ingest them to survive. And this is one of the reasons why I'm always an advocate for animal-based protein, because unlike plant-based proteins, when you consume animal protein, you get all of these when you ingest. When you go with the non-essential, when you go to a plant-based protein, you typically have to mix different protein items like pea and soy or hemp and flaxseed to get all of those amino acids because they don't have a full amino acid profile. Now, like we talked about last time, proteins are involved in organ and tissue metabolism, so like the functioning of your organs and your tissues. They regulate your neurotransmitters, your hormones. They regulate how your body produces DNA and RNA, which is how your cells replicate. They are the foundation for your cell structures and a lot of your tissue structures. And then last but not least, they make up the majority of our bones, our teeth, our nail, our hair, our muscles, and our skin. Now, the recommended intake for an individual that I would recommend, this is my advice, you might read different elsewhere, like the source that I got this from, I'm going to tell you about the discrepancy in a second, is far less than this. But I say between 0.7 grams and 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Easy math. I am 200 pounds. That's 140 to 200 grams of protein every single day. I err on the high side of that number, but the minimum would be 140 grams. If you look in traditional textbooks, like the textbook that I was given in grad school for nutrition, the same book that advocates that I should eat glazed donuts and drink cherry Coke in the middle of my marathon run, says I should get between 0.6 and 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. As an example, that's something like 50 to 75 grams of protein. Far less than what I think is healthy. And like what we talked about last time, if you are eating less protein, what do we tend to fill our plate with? Cheetos, Fritos, mac and cheese, carbs. Things that are less than healthy, right? The things that don't satiate us, don't give us the nutrients we need to perform. We should think about our food as fuel. We are ingesting food to fuel activity and not support body fat. So where should we get our protein sources from? Ideally, I would argue meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. Now, how much do you need? I already talked about 1 gram per pound of body weight. So in my example, that's 200 grams a day. An easy way to think of this. Typically, you eat 3 meals a day. 3 meals a day at 50 grams apiece puts me at 150 grams. Typically like to have 2 snacks throughout the day between breakfast and lunch and dinner. I have half of what I would need in any one of those meals, any one of those snacks. So I have 3 50-gram meals of protein and 2 25-gram meals of protein. That equals 200 grams of protein. And I thought it'd be useful for you guys to kind of get an understanding of what 50 grams of protein may look like. 7 ounces of chicken, 6 ounces of steak. Now, most of you won't eat 8 eggs in a sitting, but like you could also do like 8 eggs and 2.5 ounces of cheddar cheese and like an omelet. That's probably a very reasonable thing to eat, or more cheese and less eggs, whatever, blend that you like. 6 ounces of sausage, 7 ounces of salmon, 6 ounces of tuna, 7.5, 8 ounces of Greek yogurt, 7 ounces of cottage cheese. Now again, this is for 50 grams of protein. This is for me, someone who likes to eat a lot of protein, and I eat a high amount of it. I probably eat more than 200 grams a day. Not all of you are going to be like that. So some of you are like, ugh, 8 eggs in a sitting, I cannot do that. Realize these are, for me, not for you. You are probably smaller than I am, most of you, and need less per meal. But the idea here is we should understand that the goal of the food that we put into our body is fuel. We are trying to rebuild tissue. That is the number one reason we take in amino acids, is to rebuild parts of your body. And if you don't get enough of this, you are far likely to make worse choices for things that do not do anything for building tissues other than your adipose tissue, which is your fat. What questions do you guys have? Yes, Larry?
Protein shakes, that you buy or anything like that, and then keeping protein and not just pushing it out of our bodies.
What do you mean when you say pushing it out of your body?
Well, I mean,
like pooping?
Yeah, pooping.
All right, just checking.
So, shedding the protein. I got my interpreters here.
Thank you.
Having a bowel movement. I got a lot of things.
So I guess your question is, what do I think of protein shakes?
Absorbing protein versus,
Yeah, I mean, so everything that you eat outside of table sugar has protein typically in it in some degree. A small amount of protein is basically what builds up any food item you have. The structure of the food item you're eating is typically protein. So all food items have some protein in them. Now, the bioavailability, or how much of that protein you ingest you get to keep and use, changes by food item. So relatively speaking, protein shakes come from whey if you're getting from an animal source. Whey is a very, very bioavailable food, which means that most of what you ingest, you take in. Now, the problem with the protein shakes is not all of them have all the rest of the ingredients are super agreeable. Some people are sensitive to dairy and can't do whey, so you have to find a different source. So there is a little bit of personal digestive health situation there that might affect how much you digest, but I'm always going to be team real food. Now, if you struggle to get your protein and the only way you can try to get it in is a slam and a shake once a day, God bless, but I would try to get you to eat real food before I'd worry about a protein shake. A proper diet requires 0 supplements. If you feel like you are deficient in something, address diet first, supplements should come second. Now, I'm not saying that's what you were saying, but that's my opinion.
So the reason I asked this is there's a lot of this out there about, well, I don't need to eat, food protein. I got this, and it's the additive shake, and it's the shit that you buy in the grocery store.
Ask him to pronounce every single thing on the label.
Yeah.
If you're going to put something in your body, you should be able to pronounce everything on the label. And guess what? If it has a label, it's probably not as good for you as if it didn't have a label. I thought I saw another hand. Did I see another hand?
I just want to know, how much cottage cheese should you eat in a day? I mean,
How much? Like, how much is too much? Well, in high school, because I was not big enough, I used to eat one of those 16-ounce tubs every morning. Salt and pepper. Salt, pepper, cottage cheese. My parents were too cheap to buy me protein powder, so I had to go the old-fashioned. They'd buy cottage cheese. What else? Disgusting, bro? Bro, you know what's great? Cottage cheese and meatballs. You ever eat cottage cheese and meatballs? Cottage cheese and meatballs is the truth. Yeah, I was cheap. I was like bagged Walmart meatballs, microwave 10 of them, and then throw them in a tub of cottage cheese and just eat them with a spoon.
was it Swedish or Italian? That is not Italian.
Oh no, they were Italian meatballs. Italian. I don't do sweet. The sweet ones are weird. Jake, what's your question? What's that, sir? Yes, whey is an animal-based product, so you'll have 100% of those amino acids in it. So good question, yes. What else? Anything? Awesome, guys. Next time I'm going to talk about either carbs or fat. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.